We had some technical issues on our previous episode,
Yeah, and
which is why we're a week late.
Yeah,
posting.
we missed an episode, but we're back, and we got lots brewing though, so we're gonna catch up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just get right into it. I guess we're gonna kind of jump right into the whole topic and a little bit about.
right,
I think we can just start there. We'll just start there.
Yeah, start there.
Okay.
And for any of you listening or watching, I am not a boomer, just for the record.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, it's one of those things where I'm not. There's a little bit of negative, but I'm not trying to attack anyone or point fingers at anybody. But we live in an age where, like, the boomer generation, it seems like.
And for those of you who are not clear on what that is, and I think people your age and younger than me
misconstrue what that means.
Maybe, or I think you probably are more familiar with it than people my age. Like what the age group is, and I think it's people born between like 52 and 64.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
All right.
The main thing where this all kind of stems from is like I guess like the mentality and the attitude that generation and age group has in modern society today.
And yes, and they have a really, I think one of the things that I have that's really, one of the things that I have learned over probably just literally within the last month or so about that group of people in that age group is that they're the ones that bang the shit out of Gen Zs and millennials. Like just like saying that those people don't want to work. All they want to do is live off their parents in the basement and just dick around. And
you learn a lot of that in customer service is where you
mean
start to
them
really
having that attitude towards
Yes.
those other two groups
and just other people in general. Like,
yes,
like
nobody
they should be catered to, and like the world owes them something.
Well, because they and I don't want to. I might come across really negatively because I've had some really piss poor experiences with this group of people in the last several months, but they come across like nobody's had it as bad as they have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't understand. Like, this is what it was like when we grew up. And I was like, okay, all right. Were you able to buy a house? Yeah. Were you able to save for retirement? Yeah. Are you able to be retired now? Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah, and only one of you had to work.
Right. And talk to the people your age and Brant's age that can't buy a fucking house because of what's gone on in our economy.
Even on two incomes, you can't.
On two incomes, it's almost damn near impossible.
And if you have children, it's even harder.
Forget it. Right. So, I don't know. That's just like, so I've had some experience with this group of people in an environment that is new to me, and these people are the worst tippers in the world because they don't tip.
They don't believe in it.
Like it's almost like you prepared this drink or food or whatever for me, and it's expected that I don't need to show you any appreciation.
Yeah, it's like I already paid for it.
Yeah,
like why do I have to give you more money?
Right,
like that's the way they look at it.
I pay for your the labor cost. That's a sunk cost into into the cost.
You already
of the
charged
food.
My debit card $2 and some cents to use my card. So why do I tip you?
Why am I giving you another $2 for working?
Yeah, and especially at restaurants is like the biggest problem. Like,
dude,
waitresses and waiters are only making like $4 to $5 an hour,
and a lot of bartenders, same thing.
Yeah, so
same
they live off your tips. I mean, that's where their real paycheck comes
That's how
from.
they push their wage up.
Yeah,
through tips.
Right, because they get bonuses and raises based off of how much they get tipped.
So and we could probably go on and on about it. And I don't want to cite 10,000 examples of
no, I know
like all of the negative stuff because we said we're not going to try not to be negative. But so to feed off of that is a disturbing trend that we're seeing, not just me, but I think a lot of people are seeing in society today is what's happening with young males.
Yes.
Probably over the course of the last, I want to say close to 15 years, mainstream media has really propped up for lack of a better term, I'm just going to call it an attack on masculinity.
Yeah.
And to the point where I think a lot of young males, excuse me, allergies are killing me today. A lot of young males are really feeling squeezed out and alone in our society today, not just in terms of how they fit in socially, but how they fit into the work environment.
Sure.
And I'm going to bring up a person's name that's probably controversial with people that lean to the left, but Charlie Kirk is a guy who is like 30 years old, 31, I think he is.
Yeah.
So he's very in tune to that age group. He goes to college campuses all around the country and talks to these young people and listens to the things that they have to say. And especially the males are really feeling like they don't have a place in society today. And we've taken, and you listen to a guy like Mike Rowe talk about where we stand in terms of the jobs that are out there, the need for trades, which have been typically male jobs, not that
Right.
they have to be.
But the demographics changed over the years.
It has, but still, I think at the end of the day, a lot of those jobs
just gears
still
towards
are
that.
male jobs. Working with your hands. Yes, there are women that are doing those things too these days, but there's this huge need out there, and these young people aren't really feeling like they want to do that. And they're just not sure of what their place is.
And I can kind of speak on that. I'm 32, and I've been through a lot. I've done the retail train. I've worked in the trucking industry in multiple positions and other things here and there. And it's like, I still, at my point in my life, don't really know what I want to do, like financially, and as a career path or a job. And it's kind of sad because like going back to the boomers a little bit, it's like talking about the younger generations, they act like we're lazy or like we don't want to work and we don't want to have responsibilities. But it's like in today's nature, it's so difficult now because with inflation and how the cost of things, I mean,
and wages have not kept up with that.
No, they haven't.
In jobs that are, for people that are like 19, 20 years old, like having a summer job and stuff, like those wages aren't keeping up with cost of things. And, I was fortunate that my parents put me through college, but the next generation with my kids, I couldn't afford to just send them to school and pay for it. We had to take loans out and do all that kind of stuff. So I think that was a trend that was happening, and a lot of parents can't afford to just say, "Hey, I'll pay for your college." So kids they're working and they're trying to like have spending money and try to pay for certain aspects of going to school if they're going to college at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things that is interesting that's happened in the workplace, and when I listened to Charlie Kirk talk about this, it's sort of like opened my eyes because it wasn't something I thought about. But he talked about how we have like feminized work.
We have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's, like he's like, guys don't want to be an HR manager.
Yeah.
And no offense to any male who is an HR
Right.
manager, okay? But that's not, I guess I'm sounding a little traditional, but I think historically there have been traditional types of jobs that are ones that men do and typical types of jobs that women do. But the workplace has become feminized. And here's how I'm going to say that.
And I can bounce off that after.
Because we've become like, there's so many goddamn rules.
I know.
Like you go to work, like I work for a huge company, and like the code of conduct part of the employee handbook and all of the rules and regulations, it's like 12 pages, just that part of it. And it's like, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't, and I understand a lot of that stemmed from like the rise of feminism in this country. Like, and hey, women have as much of a place in the workforce and obviously as men do. I'm not taking away any of that, but we've kind of pushed it over the hump to the point where it's like, there's so much that just, I think these young guys are like, and all these fucking people got to tell me what I got to do, where I got to be, how I got to dress, what I got to say, what I can't say.
I can speak off of my last job. I was a driver manager at a flatbed trucking company, which if you all know, flatbedding is a very hard, dirty job for the guys that do drive and work that job and live that life. And it's not even just like the old timers, the old truckers, even the newer guys today. It's like there's some kind of gap in between the drivers and even the office workers and everything where there's this like, so from the driver to office worker, there's this, oh, I work harder than you, and I'm out on the road, and you're just sitting in this cold, comfy office.
You sit in front of a computer all
and
day.
and you're this young kid who's never had a CDL, and like, what do you really know? Like, why are you my boss?
Yeah.
And you get a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
Where you, and then like, and as the person in that position, like my age and my experience, you have to get a backbone, and you have to like put your foot down with those kind of people.
I was in that industry for 30 years, and those guys will come at you.
They will, but they will respect you if
If
you
you-
kind of meet them in the middle.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But then on the driver's side alone, like there is that gap where there's the age gap of like the very young guys who are getting into trucking now, right out of high school and out of college, and then the older guys are slowly being weaned
They're
out. I mean,
going away.
you know.
The old guys are going, especially the flatbed world, because it's like it takes a physical toll on the body. I know at my age, I wouldn't want to do it. I don't know if I could.
No, I've gotten to know a lot of those guys, and like the guys that aren't doing it anymore, it's like it's just the age and the physical aspect of the job, and like you can't do that forever, and it really is meant for a younger person.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I can speak. I've lifted a few flatbed tarps and some equipment. I couldn't do that all day long.
No.
And then drive a truck 500 miles.
Right.
Just couldn't do it.
Right. Right.
But yeah, and like that kind of goes off of like that whole thing where it's like there's this like fragile masculinity where it's like those, like using those older guys as an example, they're like we're the men, and like we do the hard work, and we put the food on the table, and
Yeah.
then like looking down on like the younger people that are doing other jobs that are making a livable wage, but it's like their job isn't defining them as a man, and like
Right.
yeah.
But I also think that a lot of that fragile masculinity comes from what's happened in society, because it's been, you probably remember the Me Too movement that happened however many years ago. And, every time we turned around, there was some woman that said, so-and-so sexually assaulted me at this point in time. And there have been some very high profile cases of that happening. And I'm not denying that it happens. But again, I think it was a case where there was all this, the pressure pushed it past the level of like over the top, where it became, now all of a sudden, if you're a dude, you're just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like every guy is like that.
Right.
And it was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like no, that's not true.
No.
And I think consequently we saw parents change how they were raising their kids.
Yeah. And you can see
Because
it.
you didn't want your kid to be like some shit kicker and
Yeah.
come across like an asshole at school, and some girl says this happened, and because there were just as many legitimate cases of abuse that had been brought to light. There were also a lot of cases of people accusing men of things that they didn't do,
Right.
that proved out to be that person didn't actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's another thing. And I can there's a few other like male models in my life currently, like around my age or younger, who I'd like to give some kind of like admiration for and this is like a study going on right now too, where like younger men who are fathers, who have children, they're spending more time with their children. They're spending more time raising their kids. Not that parents in the past weren't doing just as good of a job, but it's like we're seeing this like turn,
The shift,
especially on the male side, where
Yeah.
like a lot of young fathers are like taking interest in their child's life. They're raising them. There's a lot of stay-at-home dads nowadays too.
Yeah, there are.
And the mother works.
Right, there are.
And like I've seen arguments where like, and like truckers are a good example. They're like, well, I was out on the road 70 hours a week. Like I had to put food on the table. I had to provide. And like, I understand that. I really do. And I'm not attacking that group of people, but it's like, that might've been the only option for you at the time. You chose to take that life. But like,
Right.
I've also seen younger generations say like, yeah, my father was a trucker, or like he was out on the road doing this, or he was in the military or whatever. I would have rathered him just been home and us struggled or whatever. But like, there's a fine line where you can discuss that and argue back and forth. But
yeah, you can pick that apart, and it's just every person's circumstances are different in terms of decisions they make, how they generate income for their household.
Yeah.
And in the trucking industry, and it's changed now. It's not the same, but when I first got into that business, a lot of the people that went into trucking were in trucking because that's what their family did. Dad drove a truck, grandpa drove a truck.
Yep.
And so I'm going to drive truck. And it's like calling it, it's kind of like, it was like a generational thing. Same kind of thing was happening with, carpenters and electricians and plumbers. And then my generation came along and kind of was like,
yeah, change that.
Go to college. We talked about this before. Go to college. You don't want to do that job because that's a shitty job. And now it's like,
and that's kind of come full circle
it's
too.
It's like, yeah, we've gone 180 degrees the other direction where it's like, it's not really a shitty job. I can make six figures.
Yeah. I have friends that are welders who are 30 years old and they're
doing great.
Their wife doesn't work. They got kids. Yeah, they're busy. They're maybe gone sometimes a week at a time, depending. But
yeah, right.
But
again, we all have to make the choice that we think is best for our family.
Right. Yeah, and like it's just difficult. And like we talked about how like the cost of living and things are now, and I think we get it's like you almost don't need to, like, regardless of what you're doing, if you can survive financially and be happy with your life and what you're doing. It's like there was like this point in time where everyone was just like like judging you on based on what you did for a living.
I still think people do that.
I think it's still a thing.
I still think people do that.
And it's like,
you put something out there on social media that caught my eye.
I think I might have.
It was along the lines of like when you talk to somebody, especially maybe if you meet somebody.
Oh, the thing with Heath Ledger.
Yeah. Where it's like everybody asks you like, what do you do for a living? Where do you live?
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
No one asks if you're happy. Like,
right. Does it matter what I do for a living? Does it matter where I live?
Right.
Like, can't I just be a good person? And
we talked about this at band camp a few years ago. Like, we all kind of bonded on like, men, there is not enough focus on men's mental health.
Oh,
and like just men like kind of letting out their vulnerable side and like discussing things as men and like what we all go through on a day to day as like friends and brothers and fathers and all that kind of stuff. And like there's still not enough focus on that.
And I think that's a key point when we talk about this, what has happened with masculinity. And I know that seems like a dirty word to some people, but the reality is that we are men.
Right.
Okay. And you can't take that away from us. But you're right. The mental health side of it is huge because, we've always, I think, traditionally looked at women as like, oh, they're in tune with their feelings and they're emotional and they're feeling people. Yeah. Men are too, but like my dad's generation and my grandfather's generation, and even me up until probably 10, 15 years ago, it was like you weren't supposed to talk about that stuff.
Like show that side of yourself.
Just get your shit done. Take care of your family. Suck it up. Get your shit done. I don't care if you're sick, you don't feel good. I don't, whatever. Just get it done.
Yeah.
And I still think that men got to get it done.
Yes.
But it's okay I think it's also important and okay to have a circle of guys that you can count on and talk to. Just talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because, especially once you are in a relationship, I think there's an inherent responsibility on the man to sort of lead the way.
Yeah. And, having a partner, yes, you can, it's a team. It's a one-way street for both of you to like lift each other up and get through things and discuss things and all that. But at the end of the day, no matter what, but if you're living with that person, you still have to you both individually have to have some other outlet from each other. Yeah. Regardless of how your relationship is. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is.
I've always said, and again, like the man camp thing, like I've said it for many years that we've been doing that. Like, you got to have guy friends and not only just friends, there's a difference between a friend and a drinking buddy.
Yes.
Big difference. People that you're comfortable being vulnerable around, and that person's also comfortable being vulnerable around you.
Yeah.
And you're willing to talk about what kind of stuff you go through every day. And
like
I'm not
real
talking
things.
about like the shit you deal with at work. I'm talking about
like real feelings.
When you're making it paycheck to paycheck and your brakes go out.
Yeah.
And now, or your transmission goes out and you need $3,000. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And there's stress involved with that. Like, and unfortunately for us in our society today, financial stress is like a huge thing for people, not
Yeah.
just men, for people in general, families, and it's a big deal.
And that's why there's always like that's why people deal with like a lot of mental strain, and then like you have to go to work with all that on your mind.
Yeah.
And every other person in that office or wherever you are working is probably going through similar stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I don't think like in a society we every single day we kind of like we don't think about that as much as we should. Like you have a really bad interaction with someone at a coffee shop or like a restaurant
You're right.
or in the grocery store, someone cuts you off and like you don't know what that person's going through. They don't know what you're going through that day. And
Right.
like that's another thing where it's like it's obvious, but at the same time it's like everyone is so like everyone's world is their own and everybody around them doesn't really matter, especially strangers. And I try to go through life now with like treating everybody with a little bit of like even if they seem like they're a shitty person or if they're just having a bad day, I try to like flip it on them all the time. You know, I always like
Kill 'em with
smile
kindness.
or kill them with
Kill 'em
kindness, you know.
But you're right. I mean, I think it's like when you have that, when you become aware of that idea that, look, at the end of the day, we're all going through some shit,
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? And you're right. We all have good days and we all have bad days.
Yeah.
And when you're able to kind of get outside of that tunnel vision, I guess, of just being on your own path,
Yeah.
and you're aware of what is going on around you with other people, and you know, it's kind of a good thing, and it's a good feeling to be nice to people.
I've become like more aware of my surroundings and not just like I mean like people.
Not right,
like,
not just physical surroundings,
not just
but people,
physically, but
right.
like I've learned to read people really well, and I'm sure dealing with the public for so many years as I have has helped with that.
Yeah.
And then also getting really personal with drivers for 5 years, you know, and like learning their lives, and it's like you really start to think more about like and be more aware of what's going on around you, and like it kind of like helps you know how to approach situations on the
Yeah,
fly,
100%.
you know. And
Absolutely.
I can't say I was, you know, like 10 years ago I would have been like I wouldn't have known what to do in that situation, or I probably would have flipped out or something. And
Isn't it amazing how life experience just because as when you're a kid and your parents say, well, one day you're going to know this, or one day you'll know that I was
Yeah.
right, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. And then the day comes when you go,
Yeah.
they were right.
They were right. Makes sense now. I don't know if there's anything else on that topic you want to discuss, but I was going to ask you about this guy that I keep hearing about out at the Cove,
Yeah.
who's one of the artists that plays out there.
Yeah, so there was this band out there. I missed them the first time they played, but a couple weeks ago they were out there, and they're going to be out there this Sunday. And two guys. The one guy is the singer, and these guys are. I know the guy that I talked to specifically is 70. The other
Okay.
guy's probably somewhere in the same ballpark. Both have had lengthy musical careers.
Okay.
The guy that does the singing has sung with a lot of like soul and blues artists in his career. Etta King, I say that first name right?
That's right.
Is that right?
He's
Either one. So this other guy that plays guitar, they're talking about, they've known each other for 40 plus years. And they're just kind of talking about their careers. And this guy has toured with Waylon Jennings.
All the OGs.
Yeah. So afterward, I was sitting there having a drink, and he had met my wife the last time they were out, and he came over and said, "Hell, I wanted to introduce myself to you." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, cool. Nice to meet you." And I asked him, I said, "So tell me a little bit about, I heard your career story, and so tell me about that." And he played with the Highwaymen.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so from like 84, 85 for like 10 years until Waylon and Johnny Cash got sick. That was a thing. It was Waylon, Willie, Johnny Cash, and Chris Christopherson.
Wow.
And he was part of the band. They had, they changed that, like the lineup of some of their backup people. But and he proceeds to show me some pictures of concerts and stuff. And he goes, the only reason you don't see Waylon in these pictures is because he's the guy taking the picture. And there's a picture with June Carter in there.
Oh my
June
God.
Carter and Johnny Cash.
That's awesome.
And so, I know in the background of this setup, you can't see my Johnny Cash picture over there. But
Yeah.
Johnny Cash up here too. But
In case you're wondering, it's the one where he's like,
yeah, he's doing that. So I asked him about Johnny Cash. I'm like, so like, what was he like? He goes, he was like the coolest dude in the world. And he's told me a story how what they typically would do is like all the musicians, the backup people, the band, all those guys would sort of eat together before the show or whatever.
Right.
And the main guys would do their own thing or have dinner together or whatever. And he said, I was heading to the area that we would hang out in the dressing room. And I ran into Johnny and he said, what are you doing for dinner? And he said, I'm just going to go out and eat with the guys. He said, no, tonight you're eating with me. And he's just like, he was just one. And he said, Willie Nelson was the same way.
wow.
Just like almost not aware of the fact that they were like mega stars,
Yeah.
But he did say Chris Christopherson is a dick.
Oh, yeah.
Or was a dick. I think he's passed away.
I think, yeah,
he's
pretty
dead.
sure.
But he was a dick.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it was just like,
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
yeah, and he just to show me these pictures, and I was just like, wow.
Because at first when I heard about him, I was like, how old is this guy? Because like
70.
Okay. Yeah, because at first it made it sound like it was this younger guy. And I'm like, well, Johnny Cash has been gone for like, what, 20 years?
Probably,
At least.
maybe longer.
I think it was 2006 or something.
Something like that.
It was early 2000s.
Yeah,
when he
Waylon
passed.
passed in 07, like right after, like
Yeah.
07 maybe. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty awesome though.
Yeah. It was
And
pretty cool.
That's cool to hear about too, because like as a kid, like I went through this whole like when you're young, you're very influenced by usually your parents' music,
Yes.
or like close friends. My dad brought me up on like hard rock, old country, all that kind of stuff, and then like eventually into my young teen years, I started to discover my own, and I was really into like Green Day and Blink-182 and like a lot of the like Jimmy Eat World and stuff like
Yeah.
that, the pop punk kind of like
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And then Walk the Line is kind of what influenced me and got me into Johnny Cash as a kid, with Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon, which is an awesome portrayal of the guy, I think. And the music is just done really well. But I actually got into Johnny Cash at that point and was like listening to all his records and learning his music, and found that whole generation of music from just listening to him.
It's like that was like a fascinating time in
It is
country music.
like Waylon and like Bob Dylan and
Yeah.
all those guys, like even Jerry Lee Lewis. Oh my God! Like
Right.
and all these people I never thought I would listen to.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing generation of music that you wish you were around for that kind of stuff, but it's like it's
Thank God we can listen to it now and still
right.
be able to appreciate it.
And I think too, all of those artists were shifting like
They shifted the whole landscape of music.
because before all of those guys, it was a lot of just like new artists rehashing old songs, and like there was like a new record of like, oh, Bob Dylan's covering this song, and it's like of old music, and like him and Johnny Cash and all those guys finally like shaped those genres and like what that music's become today. I mean, it was kind of like a rebel phase of all those guys.
Well,
and,
it's funny you say that, rebel, and like there's this buzzword in country music, the outlaw country music scene, and I think in the modern era, it's probably people like Eric Church.
yeah,
Probably back when he came out was kind of viewed that way, but those guys were like, especially Johnny Cash, were just sort of like, I'm gonna make music that I want to make. They were bucking the record executives,
Yeah.
saying this is what we're doing, and
a lot of those guys came back from the war and like didn't have really good jobs or anything, and they were
and a lot of them had just horrible upbringings.
Yeah.
and then that led to like outside of what they were doing musically, their lives were a wreck.
I mean,
Johnny Cash had a
big drug problem,
big
alcohol.
problem. Yeah,
Same with Bob Dylan.
yeah, they all did.
All had different wives and
Yeah.
children, and
Yeah.
they were a couple of them were in jail a lot, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
but I mean, they're legends now though. It's crazy.
yeah, it was crazy to think that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, wild.
I can't speak a lot on this because I've only heard a couple songs, but I heard their story and it made me want to try to get into them. Red Clay Strays.
Red Clay Strays.
I
Yeah,
haven't. I know you've seen them, right?
I've seen them live. Yeah,
Yeah.
been listening to their music for about 3 years now.
I've just added all like their discography on Spotify, so I'm just now getting into them like for real.
Yeah,
I got to hear like their whole story and like how they became what they are, and
Uh-huh.
and I kind of like jived with that a bit because I'm like, oh, it's like all these small town guys
yeah.
that kind of just like have been just doing the thing and trying to get where they are, and now they're
blowing
huge.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're. It's almost like they don't fit in any
no, they really
particular
don't.
box, because that's what we do with
Right.
music and movies and everything
Yeah.
else. Everything's got a little bucket that's got to
You go in
in.
this
It's gotta
genre
be,
bucket.
It's got to be called
Yep.
this or it's got to be called that. They're not country. They're not red dirt. They're not Americana.
folk.
They're not folk. And one thing I will say is they are extremely talented and their sound is so unique and fantastic. The lead singer just has this whole vibe, like
He's definitely
kind of-
not trying to impress anybody. He feels like a real.
no, he's totally comfortable
real-
in who
yeah,
he is,
yeah.
with who he is, and his like what he's like that cross between almost like Elvis and Johnny Cash.
Yeah, yeah.
Give him a listen.
Yeah, I am. I'm
It's-
gonna get into really get into their music.
I
and,
think
like,
a lot
listen
of
to it
people
all
are
and-
like, because you know how we are. Again, I'm talking about like categorizing everything. Like people go, oh, I don't like country music, or
Yeah.
but they're not. I don't know how I would describe it. It doesn't matter. Just listen to it and
and that's the thing.
decide.
There's this weird, and I think it's also like based on how open you are to things. But there's a difference between hearing music and listening to music. Big difference.
And I've done both.
Yeah.
And I do both.
Yeah, and like as I've gotten older, I've also done both. And instead of like being pigeonholed into this one genre and only listening to all these bands from this, it's like when you can find an artist who sings about real stuff and you can like feel that on like a cellular
Yeah.
level and like really like understand what they're talking about, that's good music.
I was listening to
And it doesn't matter what genre you're playing.
No, it doesn't. I heard a song yesterday. No, yeah, yes, 2 days, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Recently, in my truck, an artist that I was familiar with. I knew the name, but I hadn't listened to a lot of the material. So I'm on Spotify, and it just like dumps stuff in there that's
Yeah.
in the same
Right.
genre. And he had a line in this song, and he goes, it went something like, "All my life I've chased wages for my sanity," and I was like. And sometimes when you hear a lyric, and that's one of the things I love about the genre of music that I listen to, and I know it exists in other genres. I'm very critical of like the pop world because I think a lot of the music is just like, oh, let's just make music for people to dance and have fun.
Right.
But the music that I listen to, like a lot of it is written by artists that it's like it's their life story, stuff that they've experienced, and it's real life shit, And when you have those moments when you hear a song and you're listening to it, and you're listening to the lyrics, because the lyrics are normally what gets you.
Yes.
That's what touches.
It like
touches
strikes
you.
this feeling in your like on a nerve.
Yeah.
That, like it actually like you almost feel like this flutter in your heart, in
Yeah.
your chest.
Yeah.
Or like you get goosebumps. That's
Yeah.
when you know you felt something from a song.
Right. Right.
I'm actually going to read you a lyric real quick too. There's this band called The Story So Far.
I've heard of them.
They're a pop punk band. I think they're Canadian. They've been around for 15 years. They're actually touring this summer. They're going to be in Cleveland like next month.
Okay.
But they put out a record last year. There's this song called White Shores. And let's see. What was the part I wanted to read you? Okay. He says, "And when I leave, I'd call you. You tell me about all the things that I don't understand. And now the absent silence is deafening. You're not there to pull me back down from the ledge." And it's like, and not only do the lyrics hit well, but when you have something like that with a melody that also strikes the same way,
Yeah.
it hurts almost.
That's one of the beautiful things about music.
Yeah. And
It's like, yeah.
and that's what's going on currently with us. Like we're finishing up an album we've been working on for 2 years, and Dakota has been doing vocals because that's it. Once he's done, we're done. And I played back a few things. Nolan's like, you got to check this out. And I listened to these few things, like these few lines that he recorded. And I'm just like, damn. And like you sit there and you read the lyrics. And like, you know, that's another thing where it's like art and music is all subjective. But
Yeah.
regardless of the genre, and, you know, we're a heavier band.
Yeah.
We have screaming and singing and all that. And it's heavier music. But the delivery and the emotion behind it, you can really feel it. Mm-hmm. And that's like you said, that's why music's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we're going to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's shift it.
So, I don't know if you've been hearing anything on the news or out in the ether.
I think I know where you're going. And
About
it's not
this-
on the news.
This 3IATLAS object that's
Yeah.
hurtling towards Earth.
Yes, I have.
Okay. So, before we talked about it, did you hear about this yet?
I had.
Okay.
I had. I think you know that a large source of my information comes from Twitter. I still call it Twitter.
Yeah.
I will never call it X.
It's Twitter.
It's Twitter. That's a large source of my information. I'm not saying it's all
I get a lot of mine from YouTube and podcasts.
accurate, but if you dig deep enough in the Twitter world, you'll find some things that
Yeah.
are yes. So yes, to answer your question,
Okay.
I am familiar with it, and I came. Go ahead. You do your thing because I have something to add to that.
So it's been a
at the right
couple
time.
weeks now, or it's been about a month, I think,
About a
since it's
month.
actually been out to
Out
the
in
public.
the universe, right?
I saw a couple Facebook headlines that people were sharing, and I was just like, oh, here we go. This
Mm-hmm.
is like another thing.
Yes.
And like I do follow a lot of, like, you guys all know at this point, I do love NASA and like space and the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
about the universe. I love it. But at the same time, I'm skeptical still because it's like we're fed so much information every single day. It's really hard to believe what's real, what's not AI at this point. You know, it's crazy.
Yep.
But then the story started coming up again another week later and then again. And I was like, okay, is this like actually real? So then I did some research and I saw this Harvard professor, Avi Loeb, who, if you didn't know, he also, like back in 2017, it was actually a comet that had passed by Earth. They gave it some weird name like Abu-Wam or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
it was
vaguely
it was
remember
pretty small. It wasn't
something about
anything to
that.
worry about. NASA reported this one currently as another comet. And they have telescopes and they've done studies on everything, and experts say that this object, this comet, is somewhere around at this point 13 miles long.
And if I
Supposedly the size of Manhattan.
yes, and evidently, when it was discovered, it was on the very like outskirts of the known universe.
Yeah, of the Milky Way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now
it's
as of right now, it's right by Jupiter, I guess.
So, two weird things that I came across about this thing. The first was supposedly there was some message that was intercepted. Familiar
Yeah.
with? Okay. And something along the lines of, we're on our way.
Yeah.
We will be there soon.
Yeah.
Some kind of thing.
Which is also going around the idea of originally when like Joe Rogan talked about this, which was like a month or two ago.
Okay.
They said 2027. People were getting like messages for 2027 and stuff.
Okay.
But now, I guess from the time that I heard about it, they said it was 110 days away,
Okay.
which is like mid-October.
So don't let me lose this train of thought.
Yeah.
You don't know what the train of thought is, so
Okay.
I don't know how I can ask you to not lose it for me. But another thing that I came across was somebody posted this supposed memo that they found on the dark web that came from either the NSA or Department of Defense.
Okay.
That stated basically like, hey, you got to figure out a way to suppress this stuff going out onto the internet.
Yeah.
We just don't want to be talking about it.
Right.
So that's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. What also, and like, you don't want to rule out anything. I mean, like, he's a Harvard professor.
Yeah,
Like, you can't just rule out what he's saying. But at the same time, he also said, like, it's not really something to worry about. You know, we won't know more until it's closer. Because
Well, we
now
won't
at
know
this
until
point,
it's 3 days away.
right? Yeah, when we see this massive object
Thing
just in our
hurtling toward
atmosphere, you know, that's,
Hurtling toward Earth.
you know,
Right. Yeah.
But, and the other interesting thing about this object is the time that it's going to be passing, or headed in our direction is when the sun is actually in front. So like it's going to be coming from behind the sun is the measurements that they've figured out with it. So that's also making it difficult for them to be able to study it because the sun, it's blinding out any kind of tech that we can use to actually like see it.
So you know what this reminds me of? If you remember the episode where we talked about ancient civilizations, et cetera, and I talked about Timothy Alberino.
Yeah.
And he talked about cataclysmic events that have happened throughout the history of the Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And like, I was
It's just like the first thing that's the first thing I thought of the first time that I read something about this. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
this is the first time where it kind of feels, we all like, especially in today's society, we spend a lot of time looking down at our screens and doing all the things that we do on Earth. And recently I've been looking up a lot and just wondering, like just looking, I'll have these moments where I'm just outside and I'm just looking up at the sky and I'm just like, my mind goes way too far sometimes.
Yeah.
And I freak myself out and I start thinking too much about it. And I'm like, especially at night when you can see, it's hard because, so there's this other guy, I don't want to get his name wrong.
Who was on Joe Rogan's show that talked about this?
So he had Avi Loeb on there a
he
while
had
back.
the guy that,
he had him.
but he had somebody on recently.
Yeah, I
Yes?
forget that guy's name.
Okay,
But it was some other guy. I don't know what his profession is or who he is. But
Okay,
do you know who Jeremy Corbell is?
I don't.
Okay, he is a filmmaker and ufologist from LA.
Okay.
And he's had some kind of access to UFO stuff a while back.
Okay.
He whistleblowed a little bit too. He made a statement where he said, when we want people to know a truth, you have to like set them up to believe a lie. And he's like, from his perspective, when he heard about this, he said, UFOs are real. He's like, that's the truth. He said, they've been here for a long time. He's like, but the biggest lie you're going to be told is that there's a craft headed towards Earth and all this stuff. And he's like, I hope I'm wrong or wait, how did he say it? But he basically stated like, this is something the government's telling us and then wants us to believe.
Okay.
But at the same time,
But is the government really telling us this?
not really, because I mean,
No.
NASA pointed out that it's just a comet,
Right.
and they're continuing with that statement.
Right.
And now this professor and a few other, I think, scientists have also come out
And there was also some stuff that came out that said not only the size, but the trajectory.
The trajectory was the
and
interesting
the speed
thing. 113,000 miles an hour.
were not consistent with being a meteor, shower, comet, or other type of thing that science was familiar with.
Yeah, because they're saying with the speed and the trajectory of this object it's not what a comet does. There's no dust trail. Even from that distance, they would still be able to see some kind of trail. And it's not coming in like a straight.
Yeah, something about the trajectory is very different.
And like now it seems to be navigating through our solar system.
Yeah.
Because like they said, I think that was today or yesterday, it's now passing by Jupiter.
Yeah, and I saw
just
something, also read something that, and apparently that they've identified it as some sort of like cigar shaped thing.
Yeah, like really long. They almost described it as what's that? There's a bridge in Boston. They said it's about the width of that bridge and the length of Manhattan. So like a very long object.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. I don't know. And like, there's always speculation, and every time we hear about something, nothing usually ever happens. Right. This one I'm a little concerned about, especially when they pushed it from 2027 to like about a month or two from now. They're saying somewhere between October and the new year. So like,
and are they projecting that it's going to actually
I think it's
hit Earth?
I think it's too far to tell right now still. Because I remember, I think it was a year ago, we heard about a comet that was supposedly
Or
I think we
meteor,
talked about it.
like a giant
something that
meteor
could possibly hit
that
Earth.
was going to hit
and
Earth.
they were working on a way to like
they were going to
deflect
try to
it
blow
or
it
something.
up or do something to it. Right. Yeah.
And I wonder if this is the same thing. It has to be.
I don't know.
I don't know. And I know that like regardless of the truth or not, there's nothing we can do about it. really.
That's the unfortunate part of it. You're right.
And
Yeah.
we can go into this whole speculation of like, is it hostile? Is it not hostile? Is it, is it humans from another, what would be more interested? Who would be more interested in humans than humans? Like, I mean, or, there's
Yeah,
we still to this day, we don't know really how our species ended up here. There's so much talk around like primates, like are territorial animals who, and when they have access to things, they, you know, what's the word? They can produce and evolve over time. Like you said, that message, like we're coming, we're on our way. Like I wonder if, because did you hear about this transmission? I think it was like in the 70s about the guy piloting the plane.
Yes.
Have you heard that?
Yes, I have.
So how do you feel about that? It's another thing where it's like someone experienced something, but it was one guy.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, I am familiar with that. And I don't know. Like there's so much, like when it comes to like the science world, like, you brought up primates, and, they're the people that believe that we are an evolutionary result of primates, Neanderthal.
Yeah.
And I came across this article, like our episode that didn't pan out, of weird
titles,
weird headlines and wacky headlines. But I came across this thing that said scientists now believe that Neanderthals mated with humans, and I'm like, wait a second. I thought there were scientists that said we came from Neanderthals.
Yeah, I saw something like that too.
And I'm like, okay. I didn't click on it and read the article.
Yeah.
And then I saw something that said, what is the one physical trait that humans have that primates don't, that make scientists question whether or not humans evolved from primates?
Right.
It's a chin.
Yeah.
And why do we have chins? And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you guys don't know about that story, I don't know the guy's name, but in the 70s there was a pilot who supposedly was taken over by some other, and they used him as a communication device. And
Yes.
basically, and it was in Spanish, but in the translation it was like, these beings have primal technology, and they are the only intelligent species in our known universe that's still using war and nuclear weapons and all this stuff. And it's basically saying that like we're the only living thing in our universe that's still fighting and using weapons and fighting each other. And apparently they also said that every other race in the universe is of equal race.
Yeah.
And that was the message that was, and then this guy ended up over an ocean with no fuel in his plane. But to going back to what I was saying, it's like, could this be some other race that's maybe coming here to help or to take us out?
Yeah.
It's really hard to, we don't know, and we would hope that it is a good thing.
Yeah. Of course. Right. Like you said, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I don't know.
I can't imagine like how I've thought about this a little bit, how like, especially at our brain capacity, like how would most people be able to handle the sight of something like that in our atmosphere? Or if our planet's just getting taken out altogether,
it'd be mass pandemonium.
It'd be bad. I think.
Would be
I think it would be bad either way.
Yeah, either way.
Whether it's
Either way.
hostile or not.
Right.
Either
way.
Like mass chaos, I think.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, on our planet, not just our country, but like.
Yeah, if we were told that this thing was going to crash into the planet and essentially maybe not destroy the planet, but have some sort of cataclysmic effect and just totally like a total reset, people would just be. I don't even
like to think about it. Really,
I don't even think that I could put into words what kind of insanity would be going on, and I'd be a part of that. I think we all would.
I think
even
right now, I don't think in our own conscious mind we can actually like we can't anticipate how we would react.
No.
You know?
No, we always like to do that, don't
Right.
we? We
Yeah,
always
we
like to
do.
go, like we're watching a movie,
Yeah.
and we go, "Oh, why would you do that?"
Yeah, it's almost like putting a private out on the battlefield for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, like they've trained for it and they're anticipating like what they're going to go through, but then they go through absolute hell and they lose their minds.
Like that kid that was in Fury.
Yeah.
You know, like that kid that they put in the tank with those
Yes.
guys that were seasoned,
Yeah.
had seen all kind of shit. Hey, you're our new guy.
That's like a good example of like,
and this kid's like 18 years old, and he's a typist or something from the office of like he's like a clerk.
yeah,
And like, you're our new guy, and they're like,
he's not a seasoned veteran or anything. He's just,
what?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, but to come off of this topic, and just to put this into perspective a little bit, I had this dream before I heard about this. So I had a couple days of really bad nightmares,
Okay.
and you were in one of them. So the one I'm going to tell you,
I don't know if that's good. Probably not good.
well, so here's what happened. And it's very weird. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. It's very bizarre, but it also like when I heard about this story, I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But I had this dream. You know how dreams kind of change reality a little bit, and like, you know, things don't always look the same. And
Right.
so we're in this city that's like by an ocean. And so there's been all this like weird, randomly we've been like, there's all these weird objects just floating around in the sky, like that we can't see, but you can kind of see, like when stuff's so far away, you can't really see it. So it was on the news and like, we didn't really talk much about it, and I don't know the time period that this took place or how long it took place. But then because we were by some kind of dock near an ocean, these objects that were in the sky were starting to get closer to the surface. And then all these like alien like jellyfish were coming out of the ocean, like floating out. And then also other things floating down from the sky. So they were like meeting in the middle, and like very strange looking things like that you could never imagine. And the best I could describe to you is like a giant alien jellyfish is really what I could put into perspective to show you my imagination that I had. But so they're floating around, and like it's on the news, and we're all kind of freaking out now because it's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So in the dream, the objects that were coming down from the sky were all maybe but this big. The ones in the ocean were like massive, but the ones floating down were like, they were floating and they were round, but they didn't have any features. They got so close to us that you could like bump into them. They were like balloons, so like when you bump it, it would like float away a little bit.
Yeah.
And as time went on, there were millions of them all of a sudden just everywhere. And they started floating together, and they ended up on the horizon, like where we were in this city, and you were there. You and Alexis were the only people that I could visibly remember in the dream. Mm-hmm. Not that this has anything to do with it, but there was a random castle in the middle of the city that you were teaching at, which I thought was strange. I don't know why that was one of the details that stood out to me. So they all start like hurtling together, basically. One's from the sky, one's from the ocean, and imagine a city, imagine a dock, and imagine like you can see the water like pretty vividly. So millions of things just like colliding together as the sun is setting. And then when they all finally touched, there was this like nuclear explosion. And as soon as it like hit, like there was no sound, everyone started crying and started like kind of running a little bit. And I remember looking over at you, and you had tears. After the explosion happened, there was this celestial-sized, Titan-sized, like Grim Reaper, like death, standing on our planet. And I mean, like, when you think celestial or Titan, I'm talking massive. And then I woke up.
Dang.
And that was scary. I mean, I woke up and I was messed up for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it felt like it went on forever. And then after hearing about all this stuff, I've just been in a weird mindset lately. Weird headspace.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is
I had another
wild.
dream the next day that I cannot remember at all.
Really?
And what's even more messed up about this dream is I had it in a sequence of, I had part of it, I woke up, and then it continued.
Oh.
Which was even worse.
And that's also highly unusual.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Wow.
It scared the crap out of me, though.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say to that.
I know.
That is insane.
Like we're at the point now where it's like it's a waiting game. We can only take information from like NASA and scientists and what we can continue to discover as it approaches, or if it ever, we may never even not even see this thing, but it's just all the talk about it. Everyone's like, oh, it's just another thing to cover up the Epstein files. And,
Yeah, there's that.
I don't know.
I feel like I would agree with your statement that people are saying that it's something to cover up the Epstein files if the mainstream media were talking about it.
Right, exactly. But they're not.
They're not.
That's what makes it not so.
So typically when they're not talking about something, that's something that you probably ought to just pay it. You don't have to pay super close attention to it, but
just pay a little bit of attention.
Keep it in your radar. They're going to tell you all the stuff that they think you need to know.
Yeah.
But the stuff that you really need to know, they're not going to tell you that. Yeah. So
I know. It's wild stuff. I don't know if any of you have been hearing. I'm sure a lot of you probably have, but it's crazy. And, I know for decades now, we're always hearing about the end of the world and like UFOs and extraterrestrial things. And it's like, I'm sure a lot of it has happened and it just gets hidden from us. But stuff on this kind of scale, I really don't think we're that far from discovering something crazy.
And, when you talk about that and you say, are we on the brink of discovering something crazy? What does that do to the average person's world?
Yeah,
like
and
if
something
like that were to be revealed, what is that like?
And what does that do to the world? Like, do we all come together at that point? Like, does that bring every country together? Being that our planet is now either, whether it's like I said, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Does that change the perspective of everyone? Like for like what the world is like, world, like, countries at war and politics and just everything.
Right.
Does that change everything for everyone?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
So speaking of aliens and stuff, and I need to dive deeper into this, but I'm just going to put it out there.
Okay.
I came across this video on Twitter of this guy that they were interviewing. It was like a 5.5 minute interview they did with this guy. It was like the early 80s. They interviewed this guy. He claims that he was instructed by the government to go recover and take care of an alien being that was involved in a UFO crash in 1963. And they called this alien being J-Rod.
Okay. Why do I feel like I've heard of that?
I got to dive into it a little bit more.
We might need to cover that.
We might. It was just funny that you brought it up, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. I just literally listened to this guy talk about, they told me to go recover this alien being and take care of him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was new to me. I hadn't heard this thing at all before. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I saw this. There was this former FBI agent, who was, for whatever reason, he was on some kind of like suspension in a way or probation. So they assigned him to this new team. This was probably like a year or two ago.
Oh, the old reassignment.
Yeah. Reassigned.
You've been reassigned
with no work. So he said that he had went ahead and like re-upped his paramedic license and all this other stuff, and to probably move on to a new career because he assumed he was getting fired. And I don't remember the circumstances of why he was put on leave, but he was a whistleblower later on.
There you go. They probably knew he was talking to somebody.
And so they finally brought him in, and they were like, "Hey, we need to assign you to a job." And he's like, "Well, there's nothing I'm really interested in right now." And
like, tough shit. This is what you're doing.
Yeah, they're like, "Well, you need to do something." Yeah. And he's like, he's like, "Well, what about why don't you just send me to the Dulce base in New Mexico?" And they're like, "Dulce base, I'm not familiar with that." And he's like, where they have I think in abbreviation it's called the DUMS. It's like deep underground military base or something like that.
Yeah, we talked about this.
We did.
We did talk about it. Guadalupe, Mexico.
Yeah, that whole area.
Yes.
And he was explaining, he's like, where they keep the Greys. And he's like, "What are the Greys?" He's like, "What do you mean by that?" And he's like, "Well, what do you call them?" And he's like,
I don't know who you're talking about.
And he's like, you're talking about aliens? And he's like, "Well, what do you call them?" And he's like, and then from that point on, he's like, "I never got assigned to a job." He's like, "They let me go." He's like, and then I moved on.
Really?
And yeah, they never, they
They just fired him.
Fired him from the FBI. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole UFO and alien stuff. There's something there.
There is.
I don't know if we'll ever know, but I feel like we will know at some point in time. But
Well, don't mark your calendar, but I imagine
110 days from now.
110 days or maybe even next year. I guess we'll find out for sure. But
Jeez Louise. Okay.
well, is that it for you?
Yeah, I think that's all I've got. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we have a handful of guests. I think they're going to be appearing on here pretty soon.
Yeah.
We're trying to work out the kinks and get the schedule all lined up, and we're probably going to have to change our setup a little bit. But continue to continue to comment, leave us some. This is a crazy topic, so please, if you got anything to say about it, leave us a comment on that. Subscribe while you're at it, and we'll catch you next time.